I, Jude Duarte, High Queen of Elfheim in exile, spend most mornings dozing in front of daytime television, watching cooking competitions and cartoons and reruns of a show where people have to complete a gauntlet by stabbing boxes and bottles and cutting through a whole fish. In the afternoons, if he lets me, I train my brother, Oak. Nights, I run errands for the local fairies. I keep my head down, as I probably should have done in the first place. And if I curse Cardan, then I have to curse myself, too, for being the fool who walked right into the trap he set for me. As a child, I imagined returning to the mortal world. Taryn and Vivi and I would rehash what it was like there, recalling the sense of fresh-cut grass and gasoline, reminiscing over playing tag through neighborhood backyards and bobbing in the bleachy chlorine of summer pools. I dreamed of iced tea, reconstituted from powder and orange juice popsicles. I longed for mundane things, the smell of hot asphalt, the swag of wires between streetlights, the jingles of commercials. Now, stuck in the mortal world for good, I miss fairyland with a raw intensity. It's magic I long for, magic I miss. Maybe I even miss being afraid. I feel as though I am dreaming away. My days, restless, never fully awake. I drum my fingers on the painted wood of a picnic table. It's early autumn, already cool in Maine. Late afternoon sun dapples the grass outside the apartment complex as I watch Oak play with other children in the strip of woods between here and the highway. They are kids from the building, some younger and some older than his 8 years, all dropped off by the same yellow school bus. They play a totally disorganized game of war, chasing one another with sticks. They hit as children do, aiming for the weapon instead of the opponent, screaming with laughter when a stick breaks. I can't help noticing they are learning all the wrong lessons about swordsmanship. Still, I watch. And so I notice when Oak uses glamour. He does it unconsciously, I think. He's sneaking toward the other kids, but then there's a stretch with no easy cover. He keeps on toward them, and even though he's in plain sight, they don't seem to notice. Closer and closer, with the kids still not looking his way. And when he jumps at them, stick swinging, they shriek with wholly authentic surprise. He was invisible. He was using glamour. And I, jeezed against being deceived by it, didn't notice until it was done. The other children just think he was clever or lucky. Only I know how careless it was. I wait until the children head to their apartments. They peel off, one by one, until only my brother remains. I don't need magic, even with leaves underfoot, to steal up on him. With a swift motion, I wrap my arm around Oak's neck, pressing it against his throat hard enough to give him a good scare. He bucks back, nearly hitting me in the chin with his horns. Not bad. He attempts to break my hold, but it's half-hearted. He can tell it's me, and I don't frighten him. I tighten my hold. If I press my arm against his throat long enough, he'll black out. He tries to speak, and then he must start to feel the effects of not getting enough air. He forgets all his training and goes wild, lashing out, scratching my arms and kicking against my legs, making me feel awful. I wanted him to be a little afraid, scared enough to fight back, not terrified. I let go, and he stumbles away, panting, eyes wet with tears. What was that for? He wants to know. He's glaring at me, accusingly. To remind you that fighting isn't a game, I say, feeling as though I am speaking with Maddox's voice instead of my own. I don't want Oak to grow up as I did, angry and afraid. But I want him to survive, and Matic did teach me how to do that. How am I supposed to figure out how to give him the right stuff when all I know is my own messed up childhood? Maybe the parts of it I value are the wrong parts. What are you going to do against an opponent who wants to actually hurt you? I don't care, Oak says. I don't care about that stuff. I don't want to be king. I never want to be king. For a moment, I just stare at him. I want to believe he's lying, but, of course, he can't lie. We don't always have a choice in our fate, I say. You rule if you care so much. He says. I won't do it. Never. I have to grind my teeth together to keep from screaming. I can't, as you know, because I'm in exile, I remind him. He stamps a hoofed foot. So am I. And the only reason I'm in the human world is because Dad wants the stupid crown and you want it and everyone wants it. Well, I don't. It's cursed. All power is cursed, I say. The most terrible among us will do anything to get it, and those who'd wield power best don't want it thrust upon them. But that doesn't mean they can avoid their responsibilities forever. You can't make me be High King, he says, and wheeling away from me, breaks into a run in the direction of the apartment building. I sit down on the cold ground, knowing that I screwed up the conversation completely, knowing that Matic trained Taryn and me better than I am training Oak, knowing that I was arrogant and foolish to think I could control Cardan, knowing that in the great game of princes and queens, I have been swept off the board. Inside the apartment, Oak's door is shut firmly against me. Vivian, my fairy sister, stands at the kitchen counter, grinning into her phone. When she notices me, she grabs my hands and spins me around and around until I'm dizzy. Heather loves me again, she says, wild laughter in her voice. Heather was Vivi's human girlfriend. She'd put up with Vivi's evasions about her past. She even put up with Oak's coming to live with them in this apartment. But when she found out that Vivi wasn't human and that Vivi had used magic on her, she dumped her and moved out. I hate to say this, because I want my sister to be happy, and Heather did make her happy, but it was a richly deserved dumping. I pull away to blink at her in confusion. What? Vivi waves her phone at me. She texted me. She wants to come back. Everything is going to be like it was before. Leaves don't grow back onto a vine, cracked walnuts don't fit back into their shells, and girlfriends who've been enchanted don't just wake up and decide to let things slide with their terrifying exes. Let me see that, I say, reaching for Vivi's phone. She allows me to take it. I scroll back through the texts, most of them coming from Vivi and full of apologies, ill-considered promises, and increasingly desperate pleas. On Heather's end, there was a lot of silence and a few messages that read, I need more time to think. Then this, I want to forget Fairy. I want to forget that you and Oak aren't human. I don't want to feel like this anymore. If I asked you to make me forget, would you? I stare at the words for a long moment, drawing in a breath. I can see why Vivi has read the message the way she has, but I think she's read it wrong. If I'd written that, the last thing I would want was for Vivi to agree. I'd want her to help me see that even if Vivi and Oak weren't human, they still loved me. I would want Vivi to insist that pretending away Fairy wouldn't help. I would want Vivi to tell me that she'd made a mistake and that she'd never ever make that mistake again, no matter what. If I'd sent that text, it would be a test. I hand the phone back to Vivi. What are you going to tell her? That I'll do whatever she wants, my sister says, and Extravagant vow for a mortal and a downright terrifying vow from someone who would be bound to that promise. Maybe she doesn't know what she wants, I say. I am disloyal no matter what I do. Vivi is my sister, but Heather is human. I owe them both something. And right now, Vivi isn't interested in supposing anything. But that all will be well. She gives me a big, relaxed smile and picks up an apple from the fruit bowl, tossing it in the air. What's wrong with Oak? He stumped in here and slammed his door. Is he going to be this dramatic when he's a teenager? He doesn't want to be High King, I tell her. Oh, that. Vivi glances toward his bedroom. I thought it was something important.